From its first graduate programs in education, Trevecca now offers master's degree work in 6 areas: education, religion, psychology, management, library and information science, and physician assistant, and doctoral degrees in education and clinical psychology. This year, Trevecca started a new graduate program, the Master's in Organizational Leadership. Graduates consistently give high marks to Trevecca's graduate programs. They praise the quality of the professors and the instruction, the positive campus atmosphere, and the values that are communicated in the classroom. For more information on Trevecca Nazarene University or any of its programs, visit trevecca.edu.
In the study that we begin today, in Dr. Dunning's book on the fruit of the Spirit, there are several things that I think are important to keep in mind from the very outset. First and foremost, he will stress repeatedly that it is a focus on the fruit, singular, of the Spirit, not necessarily fruits in the plural sense. I think he makes a very clear case as to why the focus ought to be on the fruit of the Spirit, and he makes it very clear from beginning to end throughout the study that the fruit grows, ripens, and matures. It's not so much about multiplying fruits as it is manifesting the fruit. The study is focused on the list of the fruit of the Spirit found in Galatians chapter 5. That chapter should be read in its entirety if you would understand the context of what Paul is trying to express to the congregation that is extremely important about the fruit of the Spirit. One of the points that we quickly discover as we look at the biblical texts in the New Testament where the fruit of the Spirit is mentioned is the reality that it is often in the context of congregations that are divided. Perhaps the first and maybe one of the earliest listings that Paul gives us of the fruit of the Spirit is in the correspondence with the churches at Corinth, particularly 1 Corinthians 12 and 14. Paul goes to great lengths there to talk about the fruit of the Spirit, and apparently the church at Corinth was one of Paul's most gifted churches. They were filled with talented people, manifesting all sorts of different manifestations of the gifts. But they had seemed to lose focus on the fact that every gift of the Spirit is a gift that comes from the giver, namely the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit gives these gifts for the building up of the whole body. It's not that certain individuals then can be built up or puffed up above their brothers and sisters, but rather that each of the individuals, utilizing fully the gracious gifts God has given them, enable the whole body to grow and to create the kind of community Christ wanted for his church. It's no accident that in Corinthians, and while Dr. Dunning is subtle about it, I'm going to be a bit more overt. It is no accident that in the middle of this discussion in Corinthians, he makes the great love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13, hold together chapters 12 and 14 that focus more specifically on individual gifts. What Paul makes clear is while not all have the same gifts, what matters most is that spirit of holy love that makes those gifts build up and edify the whole body. When we come to the church at Galatia, and when Paul begins to unpack the importance of the fruit of the Spirit, he contrasts that with the working and living according to the flesh, focusing upon the outward rather than the inward. Paul believed that in the Christian, the fruit of the Spirit should be manifest, should be nurtured, should be growing, as the Christian lives in right relationship with their holy God. As you take your study through this particular series, and you focus on individual gifts, keep in mind that the purpose of the gifts was that these fruits could continue to bear additional fruit, that there would be manifestations. Do not simply seek the fruits, but understand the relationship of the fruit, which is the byproduct of relationship with the giver of the gifts, God's Holy Spirit. I think Dr. Dunning has done a good job of laying out in front of us the importance, how that it can be understood and misunderstood, how these gifts can enhance and build up and enable the body to grow. It's not so much that you do a gift inventory, and in Galatians it's much more important that the fruit be the manifestation of the Holy Spirit of God. I hope that looking on these will be an impetus and an encouragement to continue to grow, to broaden, to deepen, to develop, to nurture the fruits of the Spirit that are manifested in our lives, that come as gifts of grace. They do not come because we want them. They do not grow and develop because we find ways to make that happen. It's the work of the Holy Spirit, the giver. And indeed, when one is given this gift in the new birth, the new life with Christ, he begins to cultivate us, that the fruit of his Spirit will become increasingly obvious in the lives that we live. I suspect this will be a rich and worthwhile study as you focus carefully on each and every gift, constantly bearing in mind the importance of the giver who brings, nurtures, and develops the fruit of the Spirit within us.